morning, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Pathways, Encouraging a Better Life. I'm Dennis, and I'm so glad that you're here on this Monday morning. It is a beautiful Monday morning. It is a beautiful time for us to get started. Here's what's great. This year just keeps passing by so fast. We already are knocking on the doorsteps of springtime. Clocks are getting ready to set back daylight standard time. I thought everything would be the same, but it's okay. But welcome on this Monday. I know you're busy. I know you have things to do, but you have taken the time, my brothers, and you have taken the time, my sisters, to stop, hit the pause button, and sit at the Word of God. So on this brand new business week, we can get refreshed. So in this brand new business week, that we can be encouraged. So in this brand new business week, we can get a word from God that will take us through and lift us above all of these circumstances that seem to be negative in life. So take the time to join me this morning in the book of Genesis, chapter 37. I want to read a couple verses from verse 1, maybe to 3 or 4. Genesis chapter 37, beginning at verse 1. From my Bible, it reads this way. Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. These are the family records of Joseph. At 17 years of age, Joseph tended sheep with his brothers. The young man was working with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought a bad report to them, to their father. Now Israel, Jacob that is, loved Joseph more than his other sons because Joseph was a son born to him in his old age. And he made a robe of many colors for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not bring themselves to speak peaceably to him. Here's the thought today. And the thought is a question. And the question simply is this: how can I succeed when God goes dark? Here's another way to say it. How can I succeed when God seems to be silent in my life? Let me start this way. One of the most frustrating things in the lives of Christian believers, I believe, is that when you and I serve a silent God. Have you ever been there when God seems to be silent? Have you ever been there when you have been talking, praying, asking, requesting, seeking, and God seems to be silent? I can remember times I was praying and I was torn between two sermons, and I said, Lord, which one and which way do I go? What does the people of God need to hear? And God is silent. There have been other times I've been praying and asking God for direction. I say, do we take leadership this way or do we take leadership that way? Which direction, what path, God, will I go? And God in heaven seems to go dark. I know I was in my office one time in the study and I was preparing for a Bible study lesson. That was before COVID, and we were in-house having Bible study, and there's a couple that burst into my office. Woman screaming at the top of her voice, "It's over, I'm done." The man screaming at the top of his voice, "It's over, I'm done." And I'm saying, Lord, how do I handle this situation? Nothing. And he's silent. And I think that when we as Christians find that we serve a silent God, it is one of the most devastating, frustrating things that we could do. And here's the catch. When I read the Bible, all over the Bible, I see where God is intervening, where God is interrupting people's lives, where he's saying, stop, go to the right. Or like he told the Apostle Paul, I have called you to be my servant, and you are going to go and preach to the Gentiles. Or like he told Abraham, get up, leave your family, go to a place that I will show you and I will grow you. Or like he told Joshua, have I commanded you to be strong and be encouraged? Or like he whispered a word to Jehoshaphat, The battle is not yours, it's mine. Everywhere in the Bible, I see God talking to people, saying, turn left, stand still, go right, wave your hand. And God suddenly seems to move along in people's lives as he's interrupted. But if it comes to Dennis, me, sometimes God gets very, very silent. So as we come together in this word this morning, I want to see if I can help us understand, what do you really do when God goes silent? And when he's in heaven, is he just stopped looking at us? Or what is God doing for us on our behalf when he goes dark? And I think to answer the question, we can look in the book of Genesis, and we can look at the story of Joseph. And Joseph's story can teach us some things. And one of the things Joseph's story teaches us is how we can respond to God in our relationship when God seems to go dark. Here's this boy that we're introduced to in the 37th chapter of Genesis. He's a son of Jacob. Jacob's name has been changed to Israel, and his 12 sons become the children of Israel. And as we look at the story and introduced to Jacob's son, Joseph, he's 17 years old. We learn that he is the favored son of his father because he was the son that was born in his father's old age. And his father loved him so much that he made him a coat that was made of many colors. And it was obvious to the other brothers that he was the favorite, and they were very jealous of him. And Joseph was kind of prideful about it, and he was kind of condescending about it. And there was one day that his father asked him to go check on his brothers as they were taking care of his livestock. So Joseph takes off in obedience to his father Israel and goes to check on his brothers. And as they see him approaching afar off, they said, here comes the dreamer. Here comes the one who is going to tell us how we must bow down to him. Here is the one that comes to us, the loved son of our father. Let's kill him. Let's destroy him. Let's get rid of him. And one of the brothers speak up and say, hey, wait a minute. Don't shed blood against our brother. Let's just sell him. So they throw Joseph into a pit. So he goes down into a pit. He is sold into slavery by the Ishmaelites, from the brothers to the Ishmaelites. They take him out of the pit, take him down to Egypt, and he is sold to a captain of the guard of the Pharaoh by the name of Potiphar. And there Joseph is. Can you imagine what this young boy is thinking? One day he is free as a bird, and now he wakes up the next day and he is a slave. He's in prison in a foreign land. He has been trafficked by his brothers. And this is the first story in the Bible of human trafficking. And there is Joseph. Can you imagine him calling and praying to God and saying, Lord, help me. Why am I here? I woke up a free guy yesterday, and today I wake up, I'm a slave. And God says nothing. He's silent. And Joseph works as a slave, and he works his way up because Potiphar sees something in him. He sees a characteristic of God, elevates him to be the head slave over all that Potiphar has. And Joseph has grown, and he has matured, and he is strong, he's good looking. And Potiphar's wife looks at him and desires him. And when the time came, she approached him, and Joseph refused. Now, his God was silent. God hadn't answered his prayers in all of this time. He could have said yes, but he ran and said, I cannot do this against my God, and I cannot do this against your husband who has entrusted in me everything. So he ran. And she created a lie about Joseph, that he came after her. Husband was furious. Now he throws him in prison. And there he is in a dungeon, in prison. Can you imagine him one night crying out to God and praying, Lord, I've been sold into slavery and now I'm in prison behind a lie and you are still silent. Help me, Lord. And Joseph remains faithful. Can I pause here for a minute? Have there been moments or seasons or times in your life that you have been praying in your supplication request, Lord, give me direction. Lord, send me help. Lord, guide my path. Lord, heal my broken heart and spirit. And God, for whatever reason, goes dark. And you wonder in those times, what is God really doing in heaven when we're praying down here and he's silent? Look at Joseph's life, and we can learn some things about him. In God's silence, he's preparing us. Joseph goes down into the pit, sold into slavery, goes down into Egypt, have been lied on, goes down into a prison. And in God's silence, he's preparing him. Joseph in prison. He is looked on by the head prison guard, and the head prison guard sees a character in him, elevates him into leadership in being over all of the prisoners. And all this time, God is preparing Joseph for a moment in time when he will be elevated and used by God for the rest of his life. So when God goes silent, he's preparing things for us. He's changing our character. He's working on our attitudes. He's pulling stuff from us that he cannot use in the new position of life that he will elevate us to. Where you start in life is not where you will end up. Because when we have God in our lives, he has a special plan and purpose for us. And through his silence, so many times, he is working on our behalf and working to change us so we can be ready when the moment comes for our blessings to be revealed and we are elevated by the hand of God to serve or live and serve in another capacity. 13 years have gone by, and Joseph is in prison. He meets two men in the prison that have been ousted from the Pharaoh's court. He meets a cupbearer, and he meets a baker, and he tells his story to them. And he tells them he has the gift of interpreting dreams. And he tells the cupbearer's dream. He tells the baker's dream. One is going to be killed. One is going to be restored. And the one that's restored, he says, please tell the Pharaoh, remember me, Joseph. And he gets restored and forgets all about Joseph. Can you imagine at this moment in this season, after 13 years in Joseph's life, he's at his lowest of low. He's a young man now. He has been a prisoner. He has been a slave. He has been in a pit, and nothing has changed. But what he does not see is that his character inside of him has changed. He's learned skill sets. He's learned leadership. He's learned how to work with people. He's learned how to make things happen. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seems that he gets a call from the Pharaoh, because the Pharaoh has a dream and he can't shake it, and none of his soothsayers can answer it. Cupbearer remembers Joseph. He said, I met a Hebrew when I was in prison, Pharaoh, and he can interpret dreams. Why don't you call up this Hebrew and have him to interpret your dream? Joseph does. He's elevated to the second in command of the most powerful nation in the world at that time. And all this time, God has been promising Joseph silently, working on his character to bring him to a place that he can be used and give glory to God. And what happens in Joseph's position when a famine comes? He is the hand that feeds his family and even his brothers that threw him away and sold him into slavery. Isn't God amazing? So what are we to do? How do we respond when God is silent? One of the things that I believe that we are to do as believers and followers of Christ, when God goes silent, remain faithful. Things can always get a lot worse in our lives. But if we remain faithful, God will come through and elevate us and bless us and show us the why behind the way. one of the most second difficult things for every believer is for us to wait and trust God that He has the best interest in our lives. And I'll tell you this experientially, not from a classroom, not from a book of just studying, from my own personal experience. When you remain faithful and trust God, God will respond to your need. And many times, God will show you while you have been waiting why the wait was necessary, so that when the blessing comes, it's more about shouting out and sharing and thanking God for what He has done in your life than the blessing that you were waiting on. My brothers and sisters, this day, I want you to know something without a shadow of a doubt. Our God can be trusted, and He can be trusted to wait on Him because He has your best interest and my best interest at heart. Our Father and our God, in Jesus' name, I pray that you would bless and encourage my brothers and my sisters this day and let them know without a shadow of a doubt, God, you are working in silence. God, you are moving and shaking and putting things in place in silence. God, you are working on our hearts, on our minds, on our character to change us to be ready to receive what you are bringing us into. So bless them, encourage them, and allow them to remain faithful. In Jesus' name, I pray. God bless you today. May God keep you, is my prayer.